how equipped are you to be an elementary teacher? So, pwede mo sigurong sabihin na, well, I'm just a second year student. Yes, but actually, next year or sooner or later, you will have your field study. Actually, right now, you're already doing some lesson plan and you are doing some demo. So these things are, these activities, what we are telling you, the knowledge being given to you will help equip you to be an elementary teacher. Syempre, lahat ng nagsisimula, may mga adjustments and there are, of course, some areas where you will find it difficult. And science is a very broad subject. But buti na lang, we have this science curriculum guide issued by DepEd so that elementary science teachers will know what they will focus on. So later in this discussion, I'm going to show you the core learning standard required for K to 12 students. So from kindergarten to grade 12 students, what is it that you're going to assess or expect from your students to learn? And also, this will also guide you as a teacher. Ano naman yung dapat na maipasa at maituro mo sa iyong mga elementary students, particularly in the subject science. So, I asked you last week, what makes science as a subject easy and what makes it difficult? Yeah, so I'm referring to science there as a subject. Now, as a subject, the branches of science included in the elementary curriculum, it usually hindi mawawala ang biology. And that is one of the basic branch of science included in most curriculum. So mapa elementary, high school, at college, even masteral, doctoral. Okay, so biology, as we know, is the study of living organisms, and it's still divided into many specialized fields. Meron pa tayong tinatawag na anatomy and physiology. Okay? We also have botany, okay? The study of plants, and zoology, the study of animals, and so many other branches of biology. And later, I'm going to show you the focus, or let's say, what should you focus on when you teach science. At matatagpuan nyo din yan sa mga curriculum guides per grade level kung anong aspeto ng biology kayo magfo-focus. Next is, of course, we have chemistry. So who among you likes chemistry as a subject? Siguro pag naisip natin chemistry, papasok sa atin yung periodic elements. Yan, yung table of elements. Now, chemistry is the branch of science that deals with the identification of the substances of which matter is composed. And aside from that, it also investigates the properties and the ways in which they interact with each other. Itong mga substances na to nasa loob ng ating katawan, ng any organism, ng any matter, mapa-solid, liquid, gas, yan, iniimbestigahan yan sa subject na yan, and how these substances combine or change and use ng mga processes that form these new substances. So, yan ay isa din po sa mga pinag-aaralan or included in the elementary science. And of course, hindi rin po mawawala ang physics. Okay, can you still remember the topics discussed during your elementary days sa physics? So physics is the branch of science concerned with the nature and properties of matter and energy. Okay, again, it's concerned with the nature and properties of matter and energy. Okay, so ang what makes this subject distinct from biology and chemistry, which also studies matter and energy, ay kasama sa physics yung mga mechanics, yung heat, light and other radiation, sound, electricity, magnetism, and even the structure of atoms. So, physics, the physical properties and phenomena of something. Yeah, that's another definition for physics. And of course, nakakasama na din sa elementary yung space science or astronomy. Of course, there are phenomenon, phenomenas, phenomena na kailangang malaman ng mga bata, like the seasons, the changing of seasons, climates, and although it's part of meteorology, technically, but in astronomy may effect yung yan yung high tide and low tide sa um, sa moon, sa gravity, and of course the sun as the main source of energy, the tilt of the earth, and then other celestial beings or celestial bodies like meteors and so on and so forth. Anything that they can observe sa space ay pwede na rin siyang mapag-usapan sa elementary days like the planets, yan, the solar system, yan, nandyan na po yan. And earth science, usually kasama din yung topic na astronomy sa earth science, pero may specific focus ang earth science sa elementary. Usually napag-uusapan na yung earthquake, ayan, ano pa ba, yung volcanoes, yan, sa geosphere, the hydrosphere or the water system of the earth, the land, the atmosphere, ayan, and the biosphere, the area where the living organisms stay or exist. Now, these subjects, meron siyang particular emphasis kung ano lamang yung topic na isasama sa mga broad branches of science na ito. So again, sa inyong curriculum module 1, napag-usapan nyo na what is science. So as a teacher, it's basic that we should be able to define science. So again, kung i-contextualize natin, ang dami-daming pwedeng maging kahulugan ng science. But when we talk about science as a subject in elementary, we're basically telling, or we want the students to learn or understand the world that they are in. Yung magkaroon sila ng wonder, ng ma-amaze sila sa mga natural events, sa mga nangyayari sa kanilang paligid, bakit kulay green ang mga halaman. Usually kasama na yan sa activities, yung mga animals, why are they so diverse, and how do we keep them, how do we take care of the environment, and such. Pati yung ating physical na kalusugan, pwede na rin yung kumbaga kasama yan in teaching science. Now, science is from the Latin word scientia, meaning knowledge. Okay? And it is the systematic and organized body of knowledge. So when we say science, it's not just based from our opinion or from any other people's opinion, but it's actually based from, studies and evidences, or may mga present na mga data or supporting information, how we have or how the scientists have come up to a certain conclusion or explanation of something. So science, maririnig na natin dyan yung the scientific method. Okay, so yung tinatawag nating inquiry skills. Mamaya mapapag-usapan natin yan. And science nga, it has many aspects and many definitions din. So, balikan ko lang quickly. na science is defined as a broad body of knowledge. Yes. So sa konteksto na pinag-uusapan natin, even if you are an elementary teacher, grabe, hanga ako sa mga elementary teacher at hanga ako sa inyo dahil kinuha nyo ay elementary ed because you will be teaching different subjects and that includes science, which is again a broad body of knowledge. So magdi-discuss ka ng biology, physical science, chemistry, astronomy, and even geology. So kudos sa inyo. And I am hoping na you will be, one day you will be excellent, yan, elementary teachers. Next is science as a set of skills. Okay, so hindi lang knowledge ang pwede nating, yan, science is not just a body of knowledge, but science could be defined as a set of skills. Yung mga set of skills na mahalaga, the 6 basic ones. Ano nga yun, class? I hope you can still remember that. There are 6 basic science process skills that you need to teach to your students. That includes observation, communication, classification, measurement, inference, and prediction. So when we say, yan, part ito ng kumbaga part ito ng scientific method, but the science process skills are necessary. Foundation siya ng scientific methods, and dapat pa sa elementary level pa lang ay matrain na sila to do this, to observe and then to write down their observations, to be able to communicate what they have observed accurately and clearly. Then from their observation, from their record, or from their data, to classify. Yan. Alin ba yung magkakapareho or magkakaiba? And part of that is to measure. Okay? And then to infer or inference, meaning makapag-conclude sila, makapag-reach sila into a certain conclusion base doon sa kanilang mga na-observe or from the evidence that they have witnessed, and of course sa kanilang ding reasoning. So then prediction. So these basic skills are integrated when scientists design and carry out experiments. So elementary pa lang meron ng mga experiments na pinapagawa sa mga bata. I remember yung mga coloring, yung plant, and then you will put it in a colored water. Ano pa, yung mga pagplant. There are yung pag-observe ng leaf sa microscope. So those are things that when students do these experiments, when students carry out these experiments and you provide them yan, with what they need to observe, what they need to communicate, what do they need to classify and measure, and then after they do that, what can they conclude from what they've observed, and then also predict afterwards. You are teaching them this scientific method or science process skills. Next, science as an intellectual activity. So science is not an emotional activity. It's intellectual, practical, and systematic. Kasi hindi nakabase sa emosyon mo yung mga, although affected, it affects the quality of learning. It also affects the motivation of students. But basically, science as a subject requires or involves intellectual activity. Practical, systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation and experiment. Science is also a social activity. Okay? So, hindi mawawala yon, of course, because the scientists, the students are, mga tao, social activity. They interact with other students. They discuss things with other students. And we also refer to the studies of other scientists. So meron tayong tinatawag na scientific community wherein they peer review. Sila mismo ay nagtutulong-tulungan sa kanilang pagre-research or they critique. Sila mismo ini-evaluate nila yung mga studies, yung mga experiments, and yung mga conclusion drawn by others. So, science, meron nga tayong subject na science, technology, and society. So, science is a social activity as well because society is part of it. It shapes and use science and technology. Next, science as problem solving. So, problem solving skills are included in science. Yan, in the subject. So, kaya meron tayong mga problem-solving activities na sinasama in this subject. Okay? So you'll give the student a particular situation or bibigyan mo sila ng mga um, particular projects wherein sila mismo would discover how they would solve that particular concern. So let's say nabasa na nila sa internet how they would do that, but yung sila mismo would discover how it was solved. Oo. Merong kakaibang learning doon. Okay? Science as a career, of course. Yes, it is. No need to expound. Science is a global human endeavor. Yes, because behind science are people, scientists, people who want to know more about what is happening around the world, and people who wants to explain this different natural things na nangyayari. So science cannot explain everything that is happening, but science tries to explain what is happening in the world. So in different nations, in different cultures, merong contribution to science and to the advances in technology. And science is also a process. Nabanggit na natin yon kanina na it has science process skills, problem solving skills, and you have to follow the scientific method. Yun ang sinusunod para ma-consider na you're doing something systematic, organized, and that can be considered as knowledge. Now, uh, now that we know what science is, and it's very broad, ano naman ang magiging focus natin as elementary teachers? So, merong binigay ditong conceptual framework of science education, ang DepEd. And it says here that makikita nyo dito sa illustration that sa baba, nandyan yung mga approaches. And sa mga approaches na yan, may mga nakapaloob dyan yung strategies that teachers can use in order to develop this particular skills and knowledge of students. So, ikaw as a teacher, ang role mo is to monitor kung itong mga ito na nabanggit dito are now being developed and would result for them to be scientific, technological, and environmental literacy. So, paano naman natin mame-measure kung yung bata is already scientific, technological, and environmentally literate? So, babalik ka dito sa nasa center ng illustration. So, isa-isahin natin yan mamaya. As a whole, the K12 Science Curriculum is learner-centered and inquiry-based. It emphasizes the use of evidence in constructing explanation. So, it's not just you as a teacher providing them all the information, but you allow the student to discover na sila mismo makita nila na, kaya pala nasabi ni ma'am na ganito ang mangyayari sa 'pag pinaghalo ko o yung bakit kaya ganito 'pag inilagay ko yung Mentos sa Coke, may gano'ng nangyari. So, sila mismo would try to discover and learn or try to find out why certain things happen. So it's inquiry-based and it's learner-centered. So may activities kang ibibigay, may guide questions and materials that you'd give the students in order for them to sila mismo would discover the answer to the questions they have in mind and even exceed pa. They will discover something else. Magba-branch out pa yung kanilang, maiko-connect pa nila yan sa lahat ng mga napakinggan na nilang information. So, tinatawag nating schema. Okay, mga previous na knowledge and experience nila. At masasabi, kaya pala ganun. So, may mga ganyan po. Ganyan ang approach ng ating education ngayon. Hindi lahat ng information present through lecture sa mga estudyante, lalo na sa elementary. They will not appreciate lecture type of teaching at all times. So concepts and skills in life sciences, physics, chemistry, and earth sciences are presented with increasing levels of complexity from one grade level to another in spiral progression. Bakit spiral progression? Kasi pinag-combine. Hindi na grade 1 life science lang, grade 2 physics, grade 3 chemistry, hindi na ganon. So sa grade 1, maaaring may life science, may physics, may chemistry, may earth science nang kasama. Kaya lang, yung level niya lang, so from beginner hanggang tumataas yung level niya of difficulty or complexity. So it paves way down to a deeper understanding of core concepts. So hindi lang siya yung isang subject ay ituturo sa one whole semester or one whole year, but the combinations of those will be taught, the combination of these branches will be taught in one particular year. May mga focus lang sa mga key concepts, major concepts na dapat nilang malaman before they proceed to a higher level. Kaya may mga performance standard, content standard, learning standard na titignan kayo to see if yung estudyante, nagawa niya na to, meaning may natutunan siya. Oo. Yung dapat niyang matutunan sa level na to, nakapasa siya. So, yan. He may or she may proceed to the next level. So the integration across science topics and other disciplines will lead to a meaningful understanding of concepts and its application to real life. So if you'll notice, the subjects or the topics included sa science and in all other subjects, lagi nang may connection or mahalagang ma-connect mo sa real life experience ng mga bata in order for them to appreciate the subject. Now let's proceed. Kanina nabanggit ko na po sa illustration yung different strategies or approach used in K12 program. At ito din po ay applicable sa subject na science in elementary. So kasama dito yung mga approaches like multidisciplinary approach, science, technology, society approach or contextual learning, problem issue-based learning, inquiry-based approach, constructivism, social cognition, learning model, learning style theory, and brain-based learning. So kung mapapansin nyo, it addresses yung definition or yung science na kailangan malaman ng mga bata. It's not just a body of knowledge. It's a set of skills that they have to learn. It's another skill na dapat nilang, particular skill na kailangan nilang matutunan ay ang problem-solving skill, yung basic science process skills, and of course, they'll get involved into intellectual activities. So, what's this multidisciplinary approach na tinatawag in education? So, from the word itself, multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary approach, combination siya of different subjects during one lesson or project. Let's say ang topic mo is about reproduction. So the reproductive organs or the reproductive cells, hindi lamang yung component nun ang pag-uusapan or yung parts ng cell, but when we say multidisciplinary, pwede mo siyang i-relate sa, let's say, sa love life, or how they should take care of their reproductive system, sa health, pati sa emotional health nila. So, naging approach ko dito sa mga bata is yung etymology ng word na gamit. Gamit ang tawag sa mga reproductive cells natin. Now, when we say gamit, and its etymology or nagmula ang word na yan, ang meaning niya ay to marry. So, inirelate ko na dapat pala yung reproductive cells ng babae at lalaki should only meet when someone is already married. So, nakasama na doon yung pati sa mga values na dapat mai-instill sa kanila. So, ibig sabihin, your approach in teaching science is multidisciplinary. And let's say you're not just going to talk about carbon dioxide, anong component niya, anong ano niya, but you're going to uh, also share uh, what makes it harmful to the environment. So, iba't iba. So, comprehensive method ito, and it covers an idea and yung different aspects ng topic na yun. Okay. Science, Technology, Society approach is contextual learning. So when we say contextual, kina-contextualize mo ang learning, it means that you capture your learner's attention and promote learning retention of specific knowledge, skills, or behavior na totoo sa kanila. Nakikita nila sa kanilang kapaligiran. Okay? So relevant sa kanila. So you make science relevant to a student by connecting it to their daily lives, to what's happening around them, and you're using authentic learning resources, hindi mga imaginary or mga um, hindi lahat theoretical, meaning that's something that they could witness around them and something that they could make use of. So ano pa, when we contextualize learning, okay, so you put the content in a context na magiging meaningful sa mga estudyante natin. So sometimes when you read or you refer to science textbooks na gawa sa Amerika or Europe, ang mga examples na gagamitin nila ay yung sa Amerika or sa Europe, pati mga pangalan ng mga lugar. So when you contextualize, you make it more meaningful by embedding ideas, examples, and concepts na makaka-relate yung mga bata, because that's something that they have sensed or seen all around them. So, mas relatable. Problem issue-based learning. So, yun, the teacher, of course, will give an issue or a problem, and then the students yung must be able to devise ways in order to solve it using scientific method. So problem issue based learning is something na tinatawag na PBL. Okay, so it drives students na maging aware at concern sa mga problems, mga real world problems. So, ang mga ibibigay mo na problem sa kanila is something that's really happening globally, nationally, or locally. So, ano mga example nito? Yung mga bata pinapagawa ng mga specific plans or bumuo ng mga grupo na makakatulong, or innovative products, mga project-based na makakatulong. Ano pa ba? So, this type of education is kumbaga marami siyang advantage din, because para nagiging part ng solution yung mga bata to a major problem. And it's also something that will help your students vent out about negative experiences nila. And something that you could also talk about, and you will facilitate or help the students design and make ways na maresolbahan ng isang problem. Let's say pollution or what whatever is happening in their place, that could be part of your discussion. So next is inquiry-based approach. Tapos, ito namang inquiry-based, sabi nga natin na isa ito sa mga inquiry, inquiry skills or scientific inquiry skills na dapat ma-develop sa mga bata. But what do we mean when we say inquiry-based learning? So ito ang type of approach that emphasizes the student's role in the learning process. Yun nga po na hindi ka magbibigay ng lahat ng information na sa teacher, you allow the students to discover, may role sila in order for them to know and apply a certain concept. Okay, here, you encourage the student to explore yung binagay mong written man, video, or material, and then you let them ask questions. Yung ibang teacher, they start it by showing a picture. And that picture could lead the students to discuss certain problems, and they'd ask questions and share ideas. So, meron pong different types of inquiry din that we can discuss sa mga susunod yung modules. But I'm just giving you general idea about inquiry-based approach. Mga examples nito, group projects, research projects, and then case studies. Next is constructivism. So I think you have met this term several times already. So, constructivist teaching, yan ang isa sa mga strategy na mostly used sa ating educational system. And constructivism or constructivist, okay, na ay naniniwala na learning occurs kapag actively involved ang mga estudyante sa pagpoproseso ng kahulugan at ng kanilang pagbuo ng knowledge nila sa isang particular na information na binanggit ng guro. Okay? And that way, sabi nga, active ang participation ng mga bata. They try to construct something, okay, out of what they have learned or heard from you, based, let's say, from their experiences, based on the realities that they are aware of, based on mga schema, mga previous information na alam nila. Okay, so example ng activity sa constructivism, let's say you want, sa science, you want them to measure the length of a flower. So, paano nga ba i-measure ang length ng flower? So, instead of giving them a problem by introducing a ruler, ang gagawin ng teacher ay you allow the students to reflect and to construct their own way of measuring the flower. So, hindi mo agad-agad ibibigay na, sukatin nyo nga ng ruler itong flower. Hindi ganon. So, the teacher will allow the student, especially the elementary students, to reflect and to construct their own way of measuring. Okay. So, next is social cognition learning model. Okay. From the term social, then cognition sa pag-iisip, and then learning model. What is this SCT na tinatawag? So, it describes the influence of individual experiences, the actions of others, and the environmental factors on certain behaviors. Kasama dito yung observational learning or modeling. So, pag sinabi nating social learning or cognitive theory, it focuses on differential reinforcement, mga cognitive processes, medyo na yung mga terms class, but bigyan ko na lang kayo ng example. Okay. So for, let's say, biology subject, you, let's say, want to discuss about a certain, sa behavior ng animals. Okay? So, in order for you to discuss this, you are going to what? You will allow the students to process learning and memory in a social context. Mm-mm. So, parang i-compare mo yung what's happening to let's say other organisms to what's happening to, parang i-connect mo siya to the behavior of yan humans. Mm-mm. Although ang topic ay animals, okay? Gaya ng dominance, subordination, territorial, pagiging territorial ng isang animal, and other complexities, parang i-relate mo din siya sa complexities of other groups. Like, kapag naman, hindi lang naman animal ang territorial or may mga dominance and subordination sa animal, meron din sa social aspect. Okay. So, merong uh, parang yung feelings and attitudes. Parang mas nagiging aware ang mga bata na um, may connection, may relationship, may na-associate nila yung nangyayari sa isang bagay to what's going on as well in their lives, na similar ang concept. But we'll explore further that concept. Okay? So, here, yun nga po, learning occurs through observation and modeling behaviors. All right? So, we proceed with learning style theory. So, here, we know that different students may iba't ibang learning style. May audiovisual, may kinesthetic, and so on and so forth. So, lahat ng teachers, kasama ito sa tinatawag na profiling, wherein you try to identify ano nga ba ang learning style nitong batang ito, and how would I help him or her develop itong mga scientific skills and knowledge na ganun ang kanyang learning style. Okay, so medyo mahirap kasi combination siya. Iba't ibang estudyante, iba't ibang learning style. But meron tayong tinatawag na differentiated learning din naman. Parang you allow the student to be grouped together in a certain way na mag-a-adjust siya, or yung learning style niya, makakapag-adapt siya doon sa lesson because you have given him or her the freedom to learn the content of your subject based on his or her learning style. And of course, brain-based learning. So ano naman itong brain-based learning? Okay? So medyo mga anong concepts na ito, but it's just telling us that brain-based learning is motivated by learning that is improved by what? Kung itong mga particular na ituturo mo sa mga bata or sa mga estudyante ay based on yung lessons, yung methods mo, yung designs mo are based on scientific research na how let's say how the brain works, how the brain learns, yung cognitive development ng bata. So, yun ang brain-based learning. You study the level of the student. Let's say sa elementary level, paano nga ba usually nagbe-behave ang cognition ng bata, yung kanyang what motivates him or her to learn. Ano mga assumptions about learning process at this certain age. So may mga study, these are backed up with studies, and it helps teachers relate to their students at a certain level. So brain-based learning. Yung iba naman, behavior-based. Ayan. So, halo-halo po, ano. So, meron mga theory sa psychology naman na sinasabing, let's say, ages ganito, ganyan. May oral stage, may ganitong stage. So, you allow the students to learn by holding certain things and then seeing certain colors. So, pati yun, part din siya ng brain-based learning. So, whatever is going on in the processes or functions of our brain affect how we learn, how we get stressed and other conditions. So, inaalam ito ng mga teachers. But kayo po, sa tingin mo as a teacher, which of these would you use as an approach in teaching science to elementary students? Will you use multidisciplinary approach, science technology society approach, problem issue based learning, inquiry based approach, constructivism, social cognition learning models, learning style theories, brain based learning? Okay. So now those are certain approaches that elementary science teachers use to monitor and develop these skills. What are these skills? Well, you are trying to develop and see and monitor if the students are now demonstrating scientific inquiry skills. And these scientific inquiry skills include communicating, ano pa po, that includes evaluating, processing and analyzing data and information, planning and conducting, and then questioning and predicting. Okay, so these are scientific inquiry skills na makikita mo sa iyong mga estudyante as you deliver your instruction in science. These are the set of skills that you need to develop, and makikita ito when you allow them to perform something. Okay, kaya may mga performance standards din po. And even how they recite, how they approach you about certain topics. Yan. So next, yung understanding and applying scientific knowledge. Okay, so kaya nga may mga assessment kang gagawin as a teacher in order to see if naintindihan ng bata yung mga concepts na tinuturo mo, and if apply na nila itong natutunan nila. Okay? By how they answer certain questions, by how they perform certain tasks, and as you observe them sa kanilang everyday na ginagawa. And next is if they are already demonstrating the scientific attitudes and values. And what are those? Are they going to monitor and develop in them these? Yung silang mga creative problem solver. Okay? So, isa to siguro sa dapat ma-develop sa mga bata na instead of their parents solving their science or math problems, creative din naman yun, but in a way they wouldn't learn if hindi sila mismo yung magpe-perform. So they have to be creative problem solvers, effective in communication. Yan. So pati communication skills na de-develop pala in science. So take note of that. Totoo yun because yung accuracy, how you present your observation, how accurately, how vividly. Yan. Part yan ng effective communication. Innovative, inventive thinker. So there are certain tasks wherein made-develop ang pagiging creative at innovative ng isang bata. And sometimes nagigain siya ng recognition not just inside the classroom. That could be recognized locally, nationally, or even internationally or globally. Next is informed decision maker. Okay. So in science, we don't just, conclude out of our feelings or opinions, but kailangan yung informed decision making. So for students to derive at a particular conclusion, They have observed and evaluated, analyzed the situation, the data, and that's why they were able to make conclusions. So pati in other aspects of life, na ia-apply na itong informed decision making na medyo kailangan matutunan ng bawat isa sa atin at this particular time. Okay? Next is responsible steward of nature. Ito pa, isa ding very important attitude or values na dapat ma-instill sa mga elementary students. And a science teacher could help what? Make our environment more clean. By teaching or instilling this to our students na maging silang responsible steward of nature. Okay? So according to DepEd K12 Science Curriculum Guide, here's the core learning standard. Okay, pag sinabing core, ito yung pinaka, parang sinummarize yung dapat na matutunan ng mga bata in the subject sa science. So the learners demonstrate understanding of basic science concepts and application. So hindi lang maunawaan, kundi na i-apply or they know how to apply this science inquiry skills na nabanggit ko na kanina. And must exhibit scientific attitudes and values to solve problems critically, innovate beneficial products, protect the environment, and conserve resources, enhance the integrity and wellness of people, make informed decisions, and engage in discussions of relevant issues that involve science, technology, and environment. So this sums up what you need to work on and focus on when you teach science as a subject. Ako naman, class, with my experience teaching science in English to Chinese, Korean students, mga bata, at saka sa mga, of course, sa Filipino kids. Although, most of my teaching career, I've taught high school and college students, pero I also spent time teaching kids. So, these are my observations. So, yung 5 minutes na sila ay nakaupo lamang listening to you, or you lecturing ay hindi talaga siya effective sa kanila. They aren't fond of lectures. Siguro kayo din, not really, but I hope you will at least get something from this discussion. Ako naman, as a student, sometimes I prefer lectures. Ayoko din ng pure activity. Kasi usually when I know na may experience at saka may mastery ng subject na yun yung aking teacher, I wanna hear also the explanation. So, but kids usually aren't fond of lectures. Nowadays, they are fond of watching videos. So, kung ikaw kumikilos, may mga graphic, and then that motivates them more nowadays. And kids love hands-on activities. At this particular time, although games are considered as their parang main activity sa cellphone, well, we should reintroduce hands-on activities to kids, which will make them more healthy, active ang kanilang brains, than indulging them into online games lang lagi. Okay? So hands-on activities, they also love that. Kids still get drawn to story time. Ito naman, although they're not fond of lectures, but story time still gets their attention. I guess most of us, regardless of age, we prefer to listen to stories muna before, getting to the point of what is being discussed. Yung mga key points ng ating lesson. So story time really captures the attention of kids. And syempre, hindi mawawala ang games, yan, sa mga bata. And audiovisual, must-haves na po talaga siya ngayon sa pagtuturo sa elementarya at kahit sa ibang levels. Okay, so ako naman as a teacher, I've taught developmental biology, cell and molecular biology, general biology 1 and 2, earth science, earth and life science, ang akin pong and also meteorology. So class, ang dami kong references, but I really have to read and get updated, know the key concepts. So hindi ko i-discuss lahat na nakasulat doon. But what do I want to pass on to my students? Na something that I could explain and also give examples, concrete examples. So know the key concepts, themes, and learning competencies required. Ako naman, when I teach biology, I always start with the unifying themes of biology. These are the major or key ideas na dapat alam ng mga estudyante because, kumbaga, sa iba't ibang topics na yung may didiscuss, ay kumbaga, ito yung key or major ideas na dapat nilang mapulot or makita na it's related to each other. Example ng isang unifying theme in biology ay structure is equivalent to function. So yan, yung concept na yan ay makikita mo kahit sa iba't iba, sa cellular level, sa organ level, sa system level. So structure is equivalent to function. So yan ang isa sa mga key concepts na hindi ko kinakaligtaan when I teach biology. And also, learn how to engage to kids. Yan. Iba-ibang personality, iba-ibang learning style, but it's good for us to know some creative ways to engage to kids and learn how to communicate what you have learned. So iba ang approach mo when you talk to your classmate, to your college teacher, and iba din yung approach ko sa inyo as a college student. Iba din kapag high school at pag elementary. Okay, so let's learn how to communicate what we have learned to kids. So I'm not saying I've already mastered that, but these are just some of my observations and reflections sa aking pagtuturo ng science. And just like you, I'm still learning and yan, it takes time and practice also. And of course, to really seek wisdom from God on how you will do this. Yan. Kasi teaching is a major responsibility. Kung anong naituro mo sa elementary about science to kids, you may lead them to God-believing individuals or magi sila mga atheist, okay, because of science. That's my experience as a science teacher. So the knowledge that you'll be giving elementary students are foundational knowledge in science. Pati yung skills that if hindi nila yon makuha or let's say hindi nila maintindihan yung mga foundational knowledge in elementary, mahihirapan sila when they move on to junior high and senior high level. So, kaya talagang mahalaga ang inyong mga roles as elementary teachers. So, I hope these will help you as you study. And next time we'll proceed to a new activity, a pair share activity related to teaching strategies and science teaching. So thank you class for listening and God bless.